Hi everyone! Welcome to Trek Central's Sunday night YouTube stream. I'm joined tonight by Dom.
Hello, I am here to talk Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, and I'm really excited because we've got some great stuff to talk about from this finale. As you can see behind me, a really great starship and a lot of other stuff from this episode. So thank you for having me for this stream, and we get to talk about Star Trek, which I always love.
It's my favourite time of the week getting to talk about Star Trek. So first of all, can everybody in chat just send Jarvis a big love heart and a hug? Because Jarvis is feeling very unwell this weekend. So we love you, we miss you, and we hope that we can entertain you tonight and talk all of the Lower Decks nonsense. But yes, thank you for being in chat, and I hope you're comfy and warm and cozy. So, but hello everyone in chat. Drock, Matthew, welcome in. Larry, Jonathan, John, Rob, Don, welcome in. Mitchell, hello. You're just in time. Yeah, we're just getting started. First of all, what did everyone think of the finale? Just briefly before we get into all the stuff.
Do I have to answer that as well?
Sure,
Or
yeah.
just ask in chat. I really loved this. It felt very much like something only Lower Decks could do. Definitely in terms of stakes and just what the big threat was is very much a Lower Decks thing and works within the Lower Decks universe of Star Trek. And it just worked and weaved its way very nicely into continuity and something which it seems like Mike McMahon had planned since the very beginning with these characters. So I very much love this, and definitely with the cliffhanger, which we'll talk about, looking forward to what's ahead for Lower Decks.
Yeah, I think it started on very shaky ground, trying to integrate it so closely with like such a old TNG story, but I think they've really nailed the landing. There's a lot of character development that's been years in the making now, and there's so much to go through in this finale as well. Hi Tim, welcome in. Hi Alan as well. Welcome to the chat. Rob, welcome in as well. Hope you're all doing well this weekend. So yeah, we've got the finale, and it's a good one. Before we get into that, there's a couple of news points to go through. So first of all, happy birthday, Armin Shimmerman, as well. It's his birthday today. I have seen Don in chat mention Guy Fawkes Night. It is Guy Fawkes Night.
Yes.
They go hard for it around here. And as an asthmatic, it's not my favourite time of the night because it's like days worth of smog and air pollution. I love it. And literally the fireworks will not stop.
Yeah, if you hear any fireworks from either of our mics, just realize, it's fireworks outside.
Yeah, fireworks everywhere. Because I live kind of halfway between Leeds and Bradford go absolutely nuts for fireworks. Any occasion. So, yes, it's loud and very smoggy around here. Yeah. But I hope everybody's pets are doing okay during the fireworks. My cat literally couldn't give a crap. Like, she does not care at all.
For a moment, I thought you said pecs, and I was like, are we working out for fireworks? How's this working? But yeah.
No. Pets, no, they don't usually like fireworks. Mine don't. No. But yes. So all round general hit finale in chat. Lots of 10 out of 10s and excellent. Principal Schneider, yeah, Jarvis, yeah. All round good thoughts on the finale, which is good to see. So yeah. The other really, really cool piece of news to go over is the lost 3-foot model of the Constitution class Enterprise that once lived on Gene Roddenberry's desk has been found, or potentially been found. It's not confirmed yet.
Yes.
But it went missing in the 70s, so that was 40 years ago. It turned up on eBay. Apparently it's turned up in a storage unit that somebody bought, looking very kind of grey or very dirty and very old. But yeah, look, it's got to be it, surely.
Yeah, and I think as soon as someone brought up that, oh, this might be the long lost model that was stolen, I think the eBay listing immediately went down.
Yes.
So whether we now know where it is or whether it'll appear again,
Yeah.
who knows? But there's been a blip on the radar of where it is, and it's just wild that it took 40 years and someone just buying a random storage locker and finding it inside.
Look at it. It looks gorgeous as well. Even despite all the kind of the wear and tear. I wish they'd have taken a picture of it, they need to work on their photography skills. But you couldn't just find this and not, like, surely you know what this is. Maybe you don't know that it's a missing model or anything like that. Surely you'd kind of research a little bit as to what this could possibly be, because it just does not seem like a run-of-the-mill, ordinary, generic model, does it? No. And it looks like it must have had lights in it at some point as well, looking at those nacelles and stuff.
No idea, but it's definitely wild that it was found. And you would think that someone who probably buys storage lockers and then puts things online, that they would do the research so that they probably know how much to sell it for on eBay.
Yeah. Because it was up for like $1,000. This thing has got to be worth at least $1 million, right?
I would not know how to quantify it, but yeah,
it is.
People would definitely pay a lot for it, especially for a TOS filming model. That was on Gene Roddenberry's desk. People would spend a lot of money for that.
Yeah, I think So I do believe Roddenberry is aware of this now, and is hopefully gonna get it back. So they're definitely gonna get some money for this, surely. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like, TOS is not my favorite era at all, but you have to appreciate the Enterprise is a stunner, absolute stunner. And it reminds me of a story that the Enterprise D filming model also went walkabouts from the Paramount lot. It seems to be a common thing for ship models.
Do you know about the Defiant shuttle story?
No.
So in like season 3, maybe 2 of DS9, I can't remember, there was a Defiant shuttle, which they made a model of. And they only used it for like 1 episode, maybe 2. And then it went missing, but no one realized it went missing because nobody wrote a Defiant shuttle into the script until season 6. So when they were like, oh, we need a Defiant model, let's bring it out of storage, they couldn't find it. So that's why the Defiant shuttle changes between the 2 seasons. Because they're like, okay, instead of using a model, we can now use CG technology and make a model. And we can do something cooler. And then it showed up, that model, recently, I think a year ago. So it seems like a lot of stolen Star Trek Starship models are being found recently, which is wild.
Hi Nick, welcome into the chat. Slam, welcome into the chat as well. The dilithium in it alone is worth $0. Yes, you are absolutely right. I saw the dad joke in there, Don. Terrible dad joke. Banned for that, please. So the filming model for the Enterprise D was loaned to a restaurant in Hollywood, and it was suspended from the ceiling in a restaurant in Hollywood. At which point it got forgotten about. And so it was recovered years later when they'd taken it down. They were refurbing this place, and Paramount got it back, but they had to clean like years worth of dirt and grease from being in this restaurant off it. Could you imagine the damage to that model? Like, it's crazy. There's like a really old kind of Paramount behind the scenes video that was on like the extras of some VHS or DVD or something. Of the woman, like the prop master at Paramount Studios. It's such a cool watch. Definitely recommend looking that up on YouTube if you can find it as well.
Okay.
Oh, thousands of dollars. Sorry, Slamister. Also, quick shout out to everybody who was at MCM ComicCon. That was last weekend.
That was last weekend. Yeah,
it was like ages ago.
Wild time. But we can talk a little bit about MCM ComicCon before we
we did kind of the whole debrief last week as well, but since you're here and we were there together, what was your favorite thing about MCM?
Oh, that's tough. I don't know. I think it was just a really more chill event this year compared to previous MCMs. There was a lot more space and a lot more things to do, which was very nice. Obviously, we had 2 panels, which were great, and really fun getting to meet people from the community and getting some audience participation for those panels was great. But I think just how chill it was my favorite part, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting masses of crowds.
That was my first ever MCM ComicCon ever. So I had no idea what to expect at all. So I had a fantastic time. It was so cool to meet loads of other Trekkies as well. I think we should make it our mission to make Trek a much bigger presence at MCM next time.
Yes.
I can tell you, we've definitely got scenes, plans behind the scenes to get to the next one and for all the content that we can do there. But I think my highlight's got to be the quiz, kind of just the whole banter between us all. The green sparkly jacket. It was
that was definitely a nice jacket.
So much fun. Had a great time. So yeah, appreciate anybody in chat who was there. I know Slamist was there on the Friday with us. So and yeah, just yeah. Say hi if you were there. I would love to see you again. So
yeah, definitely.
Chat are loving Lower Decks. There's a consensus that Lower Decks is some of our favorite shows. Like I think we said on the sci-fi panel as well, the Trek panel. Lower Decks is a lot of our favorites as well. Like it's just
very much.
What a cool era of Star Trek to be in, really.
And just like it's not only got that warm comfort of that era of Trek, but it does a lot of new things in so fascinating ways. I really appreciate what the writers are able to do, especially with, I think, this season in particular, having more character-focused episodes and really fleshing out the worlds that they've built, and getting a lot of younger writers to write those episodes, growing them up from prior seasons. It's great to see, and great to see Lower Decks becoming what previous shows have had of generating that new talent for Star Trek.
Yeah, I think what I love most about Lower Decks, other than the actual stellar humor, is it's a great ensemble show. And I think historically Star Trek has often struggled to balance having such a big cast sometimes. There are so many,
and there's always one that gets left.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, we haven't had a Beverly episode in a season or two, or whatever. Oh, because, the writers want to write more Data episodes or whatever. But it's a strength of Lower Decks to have...
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely, as the show has gone on, because the first few seasons were very much set in, okay, we'll have the Mariner and Boimler episodes, and we'll have the Tendi and Rutherford episodes. But season 4 specifically, we've gotten more interesting dynamics, Boimler and Rutherford, Tendi and T'Lyn, and with T'Lyn, adding in another character into this main ensemble cast to make it 5 instead of 4, but still feeling like no one is really left behind. Even though T'Lyn doesn't feature in a number of the episodes, she very much feels present in a lot of the show. Yeah. So big credits to the writers for being able to juggle these characters and give them a lot of episodes, character-focused episodes, and everything.
It's crazy, like when you think about how adding another cast member. I did not imagine that they could just add to the diversity as well as they have and mix up the pairings, but make everybody feel like there's just been more of all our central
Especially
characters.
With T'Lyn, a lot of Vulcans are played as, the straight man in comedy, and they don't get the joke or whatever. But T'Lyn actually factoring into the comedy of the series, especially with this last episode.
T'Lyn just hands down the best beatdowns. Like, I have no doubt you would have tried. I just love her wit. It's just brilliant.
Or just in, I think it was the previous episode, being like, yes, this mission will be 2.47 times more dangerous if I don't tell you about it. Which is just great because that's what they're trying to do, and it's like...
Yeah. absolute shout out. Just what a fantastic character, and it just feels like she's been there since the beginning. It just goes to show how well written that character is.
Yeah,
I
very
do
much.
feel like we have seen a lot less of kind of like the senior staff. I
Mm.
feel like Ta'ano is the only one we've consistently seen, as well as Captain Freeman and Ransom, I guess, as well. But we haven't really seen a lot of Billups or Shax or especially
But they
Kayshawn.
still get, Kayshawn specifically, he was introduced in season 3, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
No, season 2,
Or
because he was
season 2.
introduced
Yeah.
when Shax died. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I would say Kayshawn probably the biggest of the senior staff that don't get a focus, but we still get great moments with our senior staff. But it's
Yeah.
great to get more of the focus on our lower deckers, even though
I
now
really
the
love it because
lieutenant junior
Kayshawn,
grades.
yeah, Kayshawn had like one speaking line this episode, but he delivers it
Yes.
so well, and it's just a metaphor. It's like, and it's just like even the very littlest input to an episode is still done really well. Ryan, thank you so much for the super chat. Do you
Ryan.
think we'll get a 10D spin-off? I personally
Don't think.
no, I don't feel like we'll get any spin-offs from Lower Decks. Not at this point anyway. I just feel like they'll work her story into season 5 just as they did with Boimler when he was on the Titan. I feel like that's
Yeah,
how it's
definitely.
going to go. Hi, Bubba. Welcome to the
I
chat as well.
I would like more, I wouldn't say spin-offs, but more ancillary media for Lower Decks. We had a comic for Lower Decks, but we haven't really gotten any Lower Decks books,
No.
or anything like that. And I would like some more of that, or even we've only had a small mobile game for Lower Decks, whereas Prodigy has gotten a game. We've gotten Star Trek Resurgence, Star Trek Infinite. I don't know what genre of game a Lower Decks game would be.
I want them to start
Just
cropping
some
up in
more
Star Trek
ancillary
Online.
stuff.
There needs to
Yes.
be some Star Trek Online, please. Please. And
That's probably
Bubba
the easiest one
says,
to go
I
through.
think using the Vulcan as comedy might be a borrowed concept from Strange New World. I would say because Strange New World is more recent than a lot of other Trek, that's true as it is right now. But historically, they played Spock for laughs in the original series all the time. They play Tuvok for a laugh all the time in Voyager. And in Deep Space Nine, you've got that brilliant episode, Take Me Out to the Holosuite, where they play a team of Vulcan baseball. And that is played for comedy, really. I think it's just a bit of a forgotten concept, just because Strange New Worlds is a lot more recent, I guess. But yeah. Right. I guess that leads us nicely into the finale kind of recap. Would you like to go through the recap with us? For us?
Yeah. As in going through just what the episode was about?
Yeah.
So continuing on from last week, we had Mariner being kidnapped by Nick Lucano, realizing that Lucano is the villain, which I don't think anyone really expected going into this and all the lead up of the stolen ships. But Lucano has basically formed a fleet of lower deckers, a fleet of lower officers of starships that feel forgotten about and not treated justly by their superior officers into Nova Squadron. If you don't remember who Nick Lucano was, the episode does a recap really well, especially with, I think, the teaser of the episode going into him setting up the Starburst maneuver, where he accidentally killed one of his fellow Starfleet Academy cadets. And he covered it up, so he was kicked out of the academy. And it's just dealing with a lot of other things. But I do want to ask you, Mike, in particular, what did you think about Lucano in this episode?
So to begin with, I was really unsure about what was going to happen. First of all, amazing to see Robert Duncan McNeil back as Lucano.
And it was nice, the Rutherford being like, he looks like Tom Paris.
I thought it was
I don't see it.
Absolutely hilarious. I loved that. I think that was potentially one of my favorite parts of the episode.
Yes.
Boimler's just like, yeah, I don't see it. Because I feel like Boimler is literally the person who would just think, well, there wouldn't possibly be two people who look like Tom Paris. I'm just going to assume he doesn't look like Tom Paris, even if he thinks he does. He just says, no, I don't. Yeah. Anyway, no. Yeah, I was really unsure. But I feel like, and this is something we'll get onto later as well, there is such an important message about him, his character, how he acts, the resolution to his story, why he was chosen in particular, because I think from the penultimate episode, they'd obviously kind of crammed in these references to, the TNG episodes. And I don't think everyone was really thrilled with it. But I think, those fears have been resolved by how his story has played out in this episode. But yeah, definitely loved the way Lucano was portrayed in this. So
yeah, and I really liked that we did get that teaser in the Academy, and we saw Wesley Crusher and the other people of Nova Squadron.
Yes, including the one that died, because we've never seen him before.
Yes. Which is the one that died? Was it Joshua?
Yeah, Josh.
Yes.
But I don't remember his. So.
Albert. Joshua
yes,
Albert.
There we go.
And then bringing back the actor for Sito.
Yes.
And there was a nice story on Twitter in which, she hasn't really acted since playing Sito.
Really?
Or at least she was only active during those years. And they brought her back and was like, hey, would you like to voice Sito in Lower Decks? And she was like, yeah. And so it's just nice that they were able to get this person back.
If you hadn't acted very much and your one big credit to your name was Sito Jaxa in that Next Generation episode where, she's spying for the Cardassians, what a legacy. What a legacy from your short time doing that. Amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's the co-producer of Lower Decks, Brad Winters, I believe, talked about how they want to get who plays Sito? I forgot. Shannon.
I looked
Phil.
at Shannon. Yeah, there we go. I looked at this earlier.
They want to get her involved in conventions to really just show how much fans are appreciative and love her work as Sito, which is nice to get that back from.
It's so heartwarming as well. The Trek community, as overwhelming as they can be, not in our experience because they were lovely at MCM, but where the conventions where all the actors turn up at, it's such a wonderful thing to be a part of. People really do make you feel so loved.
Yeah, very much.
So yeah, we've got the cold open, and then so the start of the episode, we go through kind of the senior staff, Mariner's mum and dad. I can't remember her dad's name, the other Admiral guy.
I've only referred to him as Admiral Freeman.
Yeah. So
Admiral it's not Admiral Freeman.
I don't think he's got the same surname. Yeah. So the two parents are on with the Admiral who was in the Ferengi episode. Basically,
it's Admiral Freeman. Yeah, it is
Admiral Freeman.
Alonzo Freeman.
Alonzo, good name.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going through with Freeman, and he's very much don't interfere. It's a political nightmare. If anyone fires any shots, this could be just a political disaster and stuff. But obviously Freeman isn't going to sit back and let Mariner be kidnapped. At which point, Lucano broadcasts on an open channel to announce Alpha Fleet. And their goal, and asking lower deckers and unappreciated people to join him and his fleet in a location protected by a shield and a Ferengi black market Genesis device, which we did see on the Ferengi ship that got abducted. Yes. What are your thoughts on the Genesis device reoccurring?
So, I have many thoughts about the Genesis device, specifically that it's basically a weapon of mass destruction. Even though it can be used for good, it is a weapon of mass destruction. And just the fact that Ferengi can seemingly easily make it and profit off it makes me feel a little weird.
It is a little bit worrying.
What are the defenses against a Genesis device? Do you just hope that your planetary defense net shoots it down before it hits your planet?
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Because if you think I feel like we've seen a few Genesis devices in Lower Decks, just included in places as an Easter egg. but this is the first time we've seen one go off since the Wrath of Khan. But there was also a Genesis 2 device on Daystrom Station in Picard as well, which also looked very worryingly threatening. So it is crazy to think that Ferengis have got that technology out there
very much
somewhere, which is a little bit worrying.
So I will say, this is jumping ahead a little, but I did really, really like that you can set it off, but if you want to disarm it, it's locked by a paywall.
Yeah.
It just feels so Ferengi and so insidious business-wise that you're like, yeah, that makes sense for the Ferengi. So I liked that.
Yeah. It kind of like, how are they physically going to receive that latinum? Like, if you insert it, I don't know. It's weird.
Who knows?
Maybe it exists digitally. Maybe there's a cryptocurrency for Latinum out there in the...
That feels Ferengi-like, but yeah.
Yeah, Ferengi NFTs probably.
Oh no.
Yeah, so Mariner kind of plays along with his act for a while until she gets asked to speak, because I think it's really, what I really love about his character is that he's so conceited and arrogant. He just automatically assumes that she's going to join his fleet, and she just plays along with it, just throws in some cutting remarks like, oh yeah, you just look really creepy and arrogant, and then she steals the Genesis device, goes, yeah, this guy's a loser, and then goes on the run from him. Yeah.
I will say, talking about Lucano and just how he acts, again, going back to what I said at the beginning, it feels very much like something only Lower Decks can do in that type of villain. That just, he is kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
I don't see any other Star Trek show really being like, the big bad is a pathetic man.
Yeah.
And he has a Genesis device. But I did like that Lower Decks had that kind of patheticness to him.
I feel like it's a very... If you think about like the Cerritos and the California class, they're very much kind of like the Lower Decks of starships in general. And I feel like this is the perfect kind of finale for this class of ship. They're dealing with the crappy situation that other starships just wouldn't bother dealing with. And I think it's the same thing with the Pakleds and what other finales did we get? Although I guess when they rescued the Sonia Gomez's ship, that was badass. That was
I think it's the season 3 finale with the automated Texan class ships.
Yeah.
And that was nice, having all the Lower Decks banding together, all the California classes banding together. And in that similar vein of, they're working together and supporting each other, having this is very much kind of the opposite of that, of other Lower Deckers against them. But showing that our Lower Deckers are respected by their senior officers and they're not forgotten about, because we have this whole show about them. Really helps tie in the show together, in my feel.
Yeah, and I feel like our season 1 Lower Deckers would have reacted very differently, but even then, they still loved the Cerritos. They still loved the Starfleet. I think even Mariner, she would have been very different in season 1, but she wouldn't have rebelled. Mariner didn't even really rebel against Starfleet when she ran off with Petra Aberdeen, who had a nice cameo in this episode as well.
Yes, I was it's weird because early in the episode when I was watching it, I was expecting her to be focused as a former Starfleet officer. But then she appeared later, so I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I do see some comments in the chat asking if I know anything about the type of ship that Mariner hijacks after she steals the Genesis device, because it's behind me. There it is. And we have some people asking, was it a Steam Runner class? This is the USS Pissarro. It's not a Steam Runner class, it is a Saber Runner class, because Lower Decks likes to be weird. There's probably story reasons why they did this, but it is basically a Steam Runner class ship in the size of a Saber class ship. So it's a small
I've got
Steam
both
Runner.
of the models here as well. So
yes. for
I
narrative
absolutely
sense.
love the
But yeah,
Pissarro.
I love this one.
What an awesome ship. And we'll come on to this later as well, but it's also a beautiful tribute as well to Fabio Pisano. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Right, what happens next in the episode? I can't remember where we got up to. Oh yeah, Mariner steals the Pissarro.
Yes. And uses her mother's command codes, which she just has, which gives her access to the
I
ship.
love that she knows that. Like, I feel like senior staff have such a history of just stating their command codes like out in the open for everybody to hear.
But also, it adds a lot of operational security worries with Starfleet for me, in the fact that, you can just use a captain's command codes, which you might have overheard, to take control of any ship. There's a lot in Star Trek which their security isn't good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think fleet formation was a perfectly reasonable idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of operational issues, which is just a recurring trend in Starfleet and Star Trek in general. There being no CCTV in the entire ship, so we don't know who murdered this person. Multiple times that's happened, but it confuses me.
Yeah, so yeah, she steals the Pissarro, and what I love about this, it's such a callback to Wrath of Khan. And I think Picard season 3 was also massively influenced by Wrath of Khan as well. But
I mean,
this
it's
is
massively influenced by every single Trek thing ever. But
yes, but like I feel like this is the most we've actually seen Wrath of Khan almost reenacted. We heard a lot of the music from it this episode.
It's almost 1-to-1 some of the shots.
Yes.
So it's definitely intentionally.
Yeah.
We're doing a direct homage instead of just a reference to it.
Yeah. And it's been done really, spoiler alert, we think it's been done really well. With its own special message and all that kind of stuff. But meanwhile, the Cerritos rebels against the Admiral's order. What I really would have loved here in this scene is if T'Lyn had turned round and gone, Captain, I feel like I speak for everyone when I say, to hell with our orders. Like, I really wished she'd have used Data's line.
I mean, we talked about how they're doing a direct homage to Wrath of Khan by literally copying it 1-to-1. But I feel like doing that would have, for me, stepped over the line. So I liked more that she said Cerritos strong, because it is something which the Cerritos itself has said, rather than, we're referencing this previous thing.
And
so
T'Lyn saying it as well, like together. She's fully on board with the crew. I love T'Lyn in this episode so much.
Yes, very much.
So Tendi takes them to Orion to get kind of a powerful Orion Destroyer. And her sister, first of all, voiced by, I forget her name, but plays Alex in Modern Family. I love her. She's just amazing. I want her to be. She's obviously going to be in season 5.
Ariel Winter?
Ariel Winter. Yes. I knew it was something Winter. But yes.
Because she's now the mistress of the Winter constellations.
Yeah.
It all works together.
Actual mistress of the Winter constellations. She's an actual dick to Tendi. Will not just give them a starship, as she's a proper badass Orion faction leader.
Queen.
Yeah. So they have to do barter by combat for this destroyer, which I just think is so lower decks and so hilarious. Like they do this kind of panning shot of all the potential combatants. Shax's frothing at the mouth to like get into fighting. Ransom flexing. Kaishon sharpening knives.
Sharpens the blade, yeah.
And she chooses Miglimoo, which I just think is hilarious. And then he has to fluff his down, which sets off
such a big enemy. Yeah.
The F's. I love that name. These Orion names is brilliant. The F's. Allergies. I just think one of my favorite moments from the episode is Miglimoo with puffed out down. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's so funny. I laughed so hard during this. Somehow ends up losing the fight, which is stupid. So Tendi agrees.
I mean, but F falls on Miglimoo. But I would say that's a tie rather than they won.
I feel like it was just so fixed. So Tendi offers herself up to come back to Orion and work for the family in exchange for an Orion Destroyer, which doesn't even bloody work.
But does look really cool. And
Yes,
I
it
believe
does look
it's one of the largest non-Borg ships we have ever seen in Star Trek. Which is wild that they just have this massive Orion Destroyer. Obviously, you know, defunct, hasn't operated in centuries, but still really massive.
It's kind of like, and I no, I'll save that callback when we get to that point. But it reminded me of something, and it probably did you as well. So, so yeah, it seems silly that nobody kind of specified it had to be a working starship at some point. I feel like that was quite an oversight on Freeman's part, who's
I feel
negotiated
like,
with the Ferengi and everything. Like,
yeah, that is a good point. And we saw that Freeman is very good at negotiating with the Ferengi.
yeah,
But I can just
maybe it was the
put it
situation.
away, being like, yeah, situation, her daughter's in trouble, she's not thinking properly.
Yeah,
I can deal with it.
Bears. So they try and get this thing working, which leads to a really funny exchange between Rutherford and the guy whose name I've forgotten.
Livik,
That's it,
yes, Livik.
And one of my favorite B plots from the entire series returns just for this finale, the Mark Twain holodeck situation. I love it.
It's like,
so
we're running
much.
out of time. Okay, let's go to the holodeck and pretend to be Mark Twain to resolve this resolution.
And also, again, it was Talin's idea. She wasn't even there for that last time, I don't think.
No, I don't think she was.
That was when Tendi and Mara, didn't they go to Orion that episode?
Yes.
Yeah, and then it was So they must have heard a lot about this. But I just love the whole
I mean, they heard about
Mark
it
Twain
after
stuff.
the fact.
Yeah.
Because they were telling it in the bar. Yeah.
I just love it. It's I don't know why.
And it just goes to show how integrated Talin has become while still being Talin.
Yeah.
Which is just really nice.
I love it. I think what they did amazingly well during this finale as well is they had callbacks to earlier on in the season so many times. Like with the Tendi's family, with the Genesis device that was on the Ferengi ship, with the Mark Twain stuff. And obviously the Livik stuff from earlier in the season as well. Like
Livik stuff from getting promoted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we can go even further with that, but very much having this finale feel like a culmination of the season.
Yeah.
And they were only able to do this because of their shared experience from this entire season.
Yeah. And through everyone's determination to save Mariner. Because if you think about it, this isn't a galaxy-ending threat. It's not a doomsday scenario. It's not the 10C. It is purely just a Cerritos level threat, purely to rescue Mariner, and everybody's in it for that. And it not only a culmination of the season, it feels like a culmination of like the last 4 years, and I love it. So, so they, so I guess Mariner is avoiding all Lucano's goons, the Romulans, the Ferengi. She's trying to she never once fires a shot, which I really love. She never fires a shot. We haven't really mentioned where did they get this starship. It's clearly a unique design. Yeah, it's clearly a unique design.
Well,
who made it? Where did it come from?
Oh, as in this or Nova 1?
This one. Yeah, the Pissarro, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a unique design because we don't have enough information to know that. But yeah, we do need to know where did Lucano get it from, but also where did Lucano get a lot of his resources for Nova Fleet? He took over the Detrian system. He has a big starbase there. He has a trinary shield. Where did he get all this from?
That is a good point.
And I would like to see maybe someone pulling the strings and being like, okay, here's some funding for Lucano, make some havoc in the Alpha Beta Quadrant. Well,
we don't really know how long he'd been working on this. Like he started abducting ships at the start of this season, so it can't really have been that long. But in a short amount of time, and Alpha Fleet was quite big, so he must have been quite persuasive.
And there were a lot of other ships. There were Cardassian ships. I think there was a Pakled ship. There was a bunch of other ships of varying. We don't know who they were from. Maybe Beta Z, all these other places that were mentioned. But having, and especially with Nova 1, the main little, which is actually a big ship that has been abducting ships. Where did he get the technology of, being able to stun everyone on a ship and tow these ships away and make it look like these ships have been stolen?
All I can imagine is that he found his way into this technology whilst he was, working in backwater places, maybe from a bad rule,
all that
yes,
stuff.
and the Binars took care of the Trinary Shield. Yeah.
Yes, because there were 3 Binars, and that's why it was called the Trinary Shield.
That was really funny. So yeah, Mariner's trying to talk to all these different crews, trying to talk them around. Why are you working with this guy? He's a douche. And then it kind of becomes apparent he's just a guy with an ego. And his plan is terrible, and he's not a good guy. So these people, they do abandon him eventually once the Cerritos yeets the Orion Destroyer at the shield, which is preceded by acting Captain Bradwood Boimler.
That was actually so cool.
I loved it, and I love how Tendigo's really good captain voice. I just loved it. It was so good. We've been waiting. It's up there as much as Shaxx ejecting the warp core. That Boimler wants to captain a starship. So getting him, being able to see him not only do that, but sound confident, be confident, and tell an admiral, no, we're going to go and rescue our friend. That's bold.
He is bold Boimler, and actually good at being bold Boimler. Jeez, that's a mouthful.
Bold Boimler.
Yeah. But acting Captain Boimler and showing in this season his capability as a leader, also again coming into the culmination of this season, was absolutely excellent, and we can definitely see how Boimler will probably become a captain one day, which I'm looking forward to.
I think so. Now that he's gotten over his insecurities, he just seems to be going from strength to strength. Mitchell in chat says, is Law on the loose at this time? He has a habit of making species work together. No, Law, I think it's firmly locked in canon that Law was disassembled after the events of Descent Part 2.
Yes, and then he is given over to Alton Inigo Sung, who then will bring him to Coppelius after the Synth Ban in 2385, and then he'll eventually, after Alton Inigo Sung's death, be transferred to the Daystrom Institute, where they'll use him as their security system.
Yes. Yes. Section 31, under the guise of Daystrom, I believe, but yes, Law did definitely, especially talk his way into the core.
Also, another interesting thing to talk about is I felt when all their ships had the red streak on the side with the starburst symbol, but I felt if the situation was different, it felt very Federation-like, but even more so that all these species had their own unique ships and their own unique culture, and not just Starfleet ships. It's just a shame that they were working for more selfish reasons than selfless reasons.
Exactly.
So they had the essence of Starfleet and the Federation, but for completely the wrong reasons, which I felt so fascinating. Of this faction, and I do actually hope that it's not just brushed under the rug after this situation, and we do find some of these other ships which fled from Lucano and defected, because they're not going back to their government. We find out at the end of the episode that they're probably just hiding. I would like an episode in season 5 to be like, oh yeah, there's these Binars. and they were evil, but maybe we can bring them back to their people or something like
I
that.
feel like if the Cerritos hadn't been involved in the situation, that Alpha Fleet would have been annihilated by either the Cardassians or the Romulans or one of those factions, because those empires would not have let this go. So I feel like probably the Cerritos intervening and dealing with Lucano,
Was
trying
the best
peacefully,
situation. Yeah.
is definitely the best situation I think they could have hoped for. Yeah.
Very much.
So yeah, they launch. Well, they throw a Orion Destroyer at the shield,
Yes.
make a break in
Which
it.
the Cerritos has to be. Well, we've seen the Cerritos tow very big things, so it makes sense. But as a support ship, towing another ship just felt really natural.
Yeah,
And
and
just
they
goes to show
must
that the
have had
Cerritos is
some
very good
power
at
as well. Like,
towing. Yeah. Yeah,
I,
definitely from Livick and Rutherford reconciling and being like, okay, we can probably get some power to the ship.
yeah. When they crash it into the shield, it feels so much like when Voyager crashes into the
The
Anorax's
time
ship.
ship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Voyager, that's how it felt to me, and it was such a good callback because I feel like that Orion Destroyer is on the size level that the Anorax's ship is on. So yeah, it was so cool
Probably.
to see
Yeah.
that, because that was a
Yeah.
massive vessel. And then Captain Freeman and the senior staff go sailing through the gap in the shield in the captain's yacht.
Yes.
Which
Oh my
somebody
god.
says, yeah, somebody goes, I don't think anyone's ever used the captain's yacht, which is just brilliant.
Yeah. And it's definitely changed a little since we last saw it. But it does look really cool. So I really like how this captain's yacht looks. I'm trying to find
Different
it.
to the Enterprise-E's one. I don't
Yes.
imagine they're all.
Yeah, it's slightly different. It's got the similar kind of style to the Costo, but yeah.
Yeah. I forgot to mention as well, Mariner just talking to the Genesis device as her first officer.
GD.
GD, yeah, I
Yeah.
just love
It
that.
took
It's
me a
so
while
cool.
to figure out, wait, what's Mariner calling GD? And then I was like, oh, Genesis device.
Genesis
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
device.
I felt sad for that took me so long.
I I know. I think I saw somebody say in chat earlier, like, how did it have autopilot? I think it's been shown a few times that any commanding officer can just control the ship
I
just
mean,
through voice commands
that's
or
what I was
from
trying to
the
say.
captain's
From the
chair.
fact that the Steam Runner is a smaller ship and it's a Saber class ship, I believe that's probably for a story reason to have it a Saber Runner rather
Yeah,
than a Steam Runner. To be
yeah,
like, okay, because it's a smaller ship, Mariner can pilot it herself without needing any other people. And so that it isn't strong enough to deal with any of the other ships
yeah.
that make up Nova Fleet. So it
So she
has to
has to
run.
hide, really.
Yeah.
I love
So I
that
feel
she's,
like
she's
story.
piloting the ship with manual control, just like in Insurrection,
Yeah.
the Riker maneuver, not the one with the chair. But yeah, I love it. She's confronted by Lucano on the bridge, who manages to get aboard, and she's out of options now. She's got to set off the Genesis device to stop him getting his hands on it. So she chooses to do it there and then. And at this point, she's willing to sacrifice herself, which is pretty huge. He gets on board, tries to talk her down. She gets rescued by Freeman.
But also
And
tries to shoot her. That's
yeah,
got to be pointed out that he actually is going to shoot her and uses his own weapon, which looks similar in color to the Nova 1. So definitely, whether it was on stun or whatever, who knows. But,
yeah.
definitely was aiming for Mariner
Yeah, could you
before getting
imagine,
rescued.
like, it could have been another kind of Freedom 1 Voyager thing where Carey gets killed as he's transporting out, but they'd
Or as
never do that.
the Mako Major in Enterprise, Hayes,
Yeah,
when he gets shot while being transported.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he's trying to disarm the Genesis device, but it's behind a paywall.
Which
Hi
great.
525, welcome to the chat. What? Yeah,
Welcome.
locked behind a paywall, so the bomb goes off.
Mm.
And the
visuals of the Genesis device going off and being, again, 1-to-1 like Wrath of Khan, but being like very nice, even though,
it's
Lucano
gorgeous
dead and
looking.
all this stuff. It's just beautiful how the concentric rings form and a new planet's born. It was just really nice.
Yeah, I love it how the kind of the nebula and the storm shrinks back in, and yeah, the waves and the rings start coming out, and the captain's yacht is warping out there just like the Enterprise warps out in the Wrath of Khan. Just the visuals of this Genesis device going off, and of course, like the lines going out are like the Alpha Flight logo, like it's, and the music as well is Wrath of Khan. It just works so well. And then they dedicate the new formed planet to calling it Lucano, and they're going to use it as a home of refugees, which I think is beautiful.
And
I just
also, talking about that, I do wonder if then they will make it a home for like Romulan refugees, because
yeah,
because it's 2381, the Romulan relocation effort is going on by Admiral Picard. So they would be relocating refugees right now. So if Lucano becomes home to Romulan refugees, that would be some cool continuity, and I really love that.
yeah, we've got to start seeing that kind of background stuff start to happen in Lower Decks now.
Very much.
We're definitely going to start building towards that
I mean,
Romulan thing.
they did reference Admiral Picard and call him Admiral Picard in season 3, which was nice. But yeah, they definitely. I hope that they do reference it more going into season 5.
Yeah, and I really liked that they'd worked in the timelines of Doctor Crusher and Seven of Nine as well in the previous episode too, which is really cool. The one thing I'd have loved more of in this finale is a few more famous, or kind of a few more cameos in the background from people in past episodes who've fallen out and kind of would have joined the fleet. Maybe thought that would have been cool. It would have been really, really cool to see Tom Riker. But I guess knowing he's alive is enough.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So yeah, a conclusion of the episode. Tendi has to go back to Orion. Just watching Rutherford just be so sad. He does the saddest okie dokie I've ever heard, and it just made me so sad.
One thing I really, really love was the design of the Orion ship that comes to pick up Tendi, because that is basically a modern version of the type of ship that the Orions were seen using in the animated series, which is just really cool. The kind of bird-like structure.
I love the design of it. It's so cool.
So nice that it's a callback to the animated series, and just because Lower Decks already has retroactively tied together a lot of the very incongruent parts of Orions in the animated series, in how they look, their symbols and everything, already into the series. So now having it with their ship designs, it's just a little extra thing that Lower Decks doesn't have to do, but the fact that it does do it just adds to the continuity of the whole Star Trek universe, which is amazing.
They love throwing their animated series references in there. You had the Vendorians in a couple episodes ago. You've got the guy, I can't remember, the ones with like 3 arms and 3 legs. They're in there.
Edosians. Are they Edosian? Yes, they're Edosian. Yes.
You've got the guy. Oh god,
the guy.
The one that Sean Ferrick's always going on about. Kazinti, that's it.
The Kazinti, yes.
Yeah, I love that, and it's it's so much easier to kind of bring this into Trek stuff when it's animated.
Yes.
I love that. So yeah,
very much.
Excellent job. So all in all, great finale. Like I actually wasn't that like into it the first time around I watched it, but the second time I was like picking out all the nuances. So I guess Lucano's character, it's just so cool to compare Lucano to Tom Paris, because obviously they're played by the same actor. But it's, they've both done bad things in their past. One dealt with the consequences, the other did not. And I just feel like it's so cool to look at what happens to the people who cannot deal with the consequences. Like what, it doesn't matter what anybody tells him, Lucano cannot take responsibility for his previous actions. He cannot. He just blames other people, and he just feels that he just feels like he's had an injustice.
And I'll say it's very nice that this episode, and I guess the end of last episode, does very specifically make that Tom Paris and Lucano are two separate characters, because it's been a common fan theory that Nick Lucano is Tom Paris, he was just under a different name at the Academy. And I never really liked that theory, because even from the get-go with Tom Paris, even if he was meant to be Lucano originally, the characters were so different in, like you said, one of them dealt with the consequences of their actions, and one of them doesn't. And Nick Lucano was much more, I won't say insidious, but more pathetic as a person. I'll say that. In that he just doesn't deal with it. Yeah.
He
Whereas
can
Tom
talk
Paris
people round to his way, but
he still is good.
Tom Paris is charming.
Is not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did like that Lower Decks has finally put that fan theory to rest, and they are two separate people. They just look similar.
I think they've capitalized on that, because originally Paris was meant to be Lucano, but for a rights reason, they couldn't do it, because they'd have had to pay out rights to the original writer of that episode for every single episode of Voyager, which is not feasible. They couldn't have done it. So they gave him a roughly similar backstory that you could connect the dots with, but technically wasn't that character.
Different. There was enough different to make it a different character.
And it worked, and I think Lower Decks have capitalized on that opportunity to take Lucano and flesh out that character and his experience in the past 20 years or whatever. But yeah, I think he's really, really cool. And obviously it's not cool that he dies or, wasn't such a good person, but it just goes to show that it's a good message that you have to deal with the responsibility and the consequences of your actions. You can't just,
and also just deal with your past as well. And that's been a big thing of this season.
You can't go blaming it. Chat says, do you think Tendi will have Starfleet orders to open up communications ally with the Orions?
We do have to talk about that a little, because when I think it was Vassery at the end talking to Freeman was like, oh yeah, there's something else I have to talk about with regards to your lieutenant. And the fact that he says your lieutenant and not your daughter makes me more think that there was something else with regards to Tendi. And then the final shots with Tendi do make me think that maybe Starfleet has a mission for her on Orion.
That would be a really good opportunity for them. Maybe it was the plan all along. In which case, Freeman again was in on it. Yeah, it's an interesting theory. I thought that Tendi would be so busy doing family stuff, but I think it's really feasible that she'll be doing some undercover stuff for Starfleet.
Yeah, and especially when it's been talked a lot that Starfleet doesn't really have a presence on Orion. They haven't really gone there before.
No.
To Freeman being basically congratulated for opening dialogue with the Orions. So maybe Tendi's mission is to just further open that door between the Federation and Orion. And as we've seen in Star Trek Picard, there are a lot more Orions in Starfleet.
Yeah.
We see a few in Lower Decks, but only 2, I think.
And one of them was an orphan.
So one of them was from, where was he from? He was from somewhere on Earth.
Yeah, San Francisco. Or no, something like that. I can't remember.
Something like that. So it could be that Tendi helps get better relations with the Orions, which would be
she could be laying the
wild.
foundations for stuff that we see coming to resolution in many years' time. Jonathan says, but what happened to Spock? He also killed by the Genesis twice and then came back. Well, Spock was not killed by the Genesis device. He was killed by radiation from the antimatter chamber on the Enterprise. He was launched into space as a funeral and landed on the Genesis planet, which is what brought him back. But he was not killed by the Genesis device itself.
And they also made mention that this Lucano, the Genesis planet, is stable compared to Genesis planet, which was unstable.
Yeah, the original Genesis device had proto matter in it, which I guess this one doesn't have in it.
Or they stabilized it somehow.
Yeah, a lot of years have passed. Hi, Brad. Welcome to chat. Good to see you. Brad has done an awesome President Loki cosplay. Hope you're enjoying the new season. Can't wait for the finale next week. Tillin set up for next season, ignoring that call from command, likely will become a storyline. Absolutely. So yeah, we've come like real full circle with Tillin's story this season. She was struggling to integrate onto the Cerritos, but she's really made a core group of friends. Like, what's she gonna do without Tendi next season? And she's actually committed.
Her final words were like, I would rather spend my time becoming your science.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Tendi being like, yeah, I gotta go now. What's Tillin going to do?
What is Tillin going to do? I feel like she's going to become a fully commissioned officer in Starfleet now. I think they're going to get rid of the non-commissioned officer. I think she's going to fully join Starfleet and really, stick her middle finger up to the her previous commanding officer.
We'll do a sarcastic Vulcan salute.
I love that. That's my favorite thing. Love it.
Yeah. Oh, bless. And I saw some mention to it in chat, and 525 just mentioned it, but the fact that we have William Boimler still out there.
Yeah, he's out there
which
somewhere.
Wasn't mentioned this entire season, so maybe that'll be something we see in season 5.
Yeah, I wonder what they're on. I think we're going to start seeing a lot of hopefully some Picard's kind of foundation work going in there for the next season. Maybe some more Daystrom stuff, maybe some Section 31 stuff. Yeah, there's some interesting places they can go.
There are some very interesting things they can go, and especially with you can have references also to Prodigy, to just be like, oh yeah, I mean it's still a few years ahead, but you can be like, oh yeah, Captain Chakotay is going off. Or whatever.
They haven't done any Prodigy tie-ins yet, so you never know.
Yeah, which is understandable because Prodigy, I think Captain Chakotay would have left next year in the timelines, 2382.
I need me some Janeway. 525 was saying maybe they can resurrect Brad Stubble. Well, William Boimler's not dead. His death was faked. He's off working with Section 31 at the moment, which we haven't seen. Sim's casket lands on Lucano and they bring Trip back that way. Well, Lucano has been blown into trillions of atoms because he was on the ship
with
the Genesis
Sim's
device.
Casket, which was the duplicate of Trip from Enterprise. Is what they're mentioning, but that's 200 years ago. Yeah. No, that's not beta canon. That was an episode.
Wait, hang on.
Similitude.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, but that was 200 years ago. That won't be how they get Trip back.
The Enterprise F launch next season. Ooh, I'd love that. That ship got off.
Since when was the? I don't think the F was active until. Later.
I don't think the E has gone out of commission yet, and we all need to know what Worf did to the Enterprise E.
I did a script on this, but I can't remember what the actual date was.
Oh, Lucano is in the planet, so yeah, Lucano, yeah. An early synth rebellion, or push that back. I don't know. I feel like we've got a couple more seasons. Like we were also saying, the timeline of Lower Decks. It takes about 2.5 seasons to cover a year.
Yeah, so it seems what they're doing is they're doing what previous live action Trek has done, which is every 26 episodes it is a year. But previously, every season was 26 episodes. Now we have 26 episodes is 2.5 seasons for Lower Decks. Because 2380 takes place in season 1, 2, and half of 3. And currently we're in 2381. The Synth Rebellion revolution / being hacked by the Zatvash doesn't happen until 2385, which is 4 years ahead, which, is 10 seasons ahead.
I will
If they
happily
keep at this. If we
I
do
will
get
happily watch
10
10 seasons.
of Lower Decks, then sure. But there's a lot that Lower Decks can do in 2381 while still having those Picard references of just, oh yeah, Admiral Picard's off in the Romulan neutral zone, or oh yeah, Janeway's overseeing the Protostar class, or the Protostar prototype, or you can do references like that without having direct tie-ins to those medias, and just having small connectivity that doesn't affect the episode and means that already Lower Decks is very much a show where your full enjoyment comes from watching previous episodes of Star Trek. These episodes might not have hit as hard if you haven't watched Lower Decks from the Next Generation and know who Sito is and know who Nick Lucano is. So adding in, okay, for this episode you need to watch Prodigy, or for this episode you need to watch Picard, I don't think is what Lower Decks will do. Lower Decks will do what it's always done and just have cheeky references and cameos to these things, but not fully committed on those.
I love it.
details.
I love it when they build characters that we've known before and it fleshed out on what they're doing right here, right now. I love that kind of stuff so much. Like, it's one of my favorite episodes has been going to Ferenginar and seeing Rom and Lita. That's been amazing. Like,
and then also, we do have Rom and Lita there, but having, is it Quimp, the Ferengi which we see in the first season, that is Marina's friend.
Quim or something.
Something like that. Having him come back, and now Lower Decks has generated a lot of characters itself, which it can call back to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of having so hard, it was Quimp. Yes, instead of going so hard on prior Trek, it can just go hard on prior Lower Decks.
For example, Petra Aberdeen, who we did see briefly in this episode.
Yes.
So,
Petra Aberdeen.
We've not had any Jennifer this season, which has made me sad.
Yeah, very much, because a lot of people weren't satisfied or happy with
a terrible resolution to that story, because it wasn't even
Jennifer
resolved. They didn't have any kind of, and oh my god, they were in the same anyway. Kind of before we answer some more questions in the chat, I just want to talk about the USS Pissarro a little bit more. Absolutely stunning ship. I love the Steamrunner. So here's my Eagle Moss model, if the camera wants to focus. I love it. Saber size Steamrunner, Saber Runner class, in fact. And if you want to tell us how the ship came about, like who it's named after.
So the USS Pissarro is named after Fabio Pissarro, who has worked a lot in Star Trek and contributed a lot, but a lot of his main contributions were to the Eagle Moss ship models, which you have on hand. But he made a lot of the 3D renders, which were used to make the ships, and just for the renders in the magazines.
I just want to point out that he rebuilt these renders that were lost. They previously existed, they were lost. It was such a work of passion, such a wonderful act for somebody who loves Star Trek so much. So amazing work,
yeah. And unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. So the animators, the producers, the animators, the creative minds behind Lower Decks decided to honor him because they had worked with him before. I believe he talked with the creative minds behind Lower Decks, and he specifically very much wanted a vertical Romulan ship, which was from some original concept art by one of the concept designers of the Enterprise D.
And
I
Duke
forget.
Probert?
That's him. Yes, Probert. So we see that ship in season 4.
Yeah, as a Tal
Unfortunately,
Shiar ship, yeah.
He isn't here to see that, but very much he really wanted that, and that's why they put that in, and then they honor him with the USS Pissarro. Interestingly enough, there is also another USS Pissarro in Star Trek Picard Season 3. This was a Gagarin-class ship, and we know of it from the really cool renders which they put out on Twitter for publicity purposes of all the ships that Dave Blass put out that were made by Keen Sin. So we now have a legacy of ships that honors Pissarro, and what a better way to honor someone who contributed so much to Star Trek. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to see these contributions come to head in these shows.
I
It's just
really
really
love these
nice
kinds
to-
of things
Yeah.
because obviously we had the USS Nog, the Eisenberg class, we had
Yes.
the Nebula in Strange New Worlds dedicated to Melissa Navier's partner who passed away. So many touching tributes and touching nods, and I think a ship as gorgeous as this is such a great tribute to somebody who is so passionate about starships. So yeah, amazing work. And I think Eaglemoss have a lot to thank him for. So
Yes, and there's such excellent renders, and just models, in general. That, yeah, it's just really cool the work he did, and he did a lot more work. I think he made the CG model for the Reliant, and he worked on the Star Trek Borg 4D experience thing, and a lot of other cool contributions.
so cool. I've my XL starships have started to arrive now. So
Ooh.
I've got my Danube class runabout. I've got my DS9 with a signed plaque from Nana Visitor. I love it. I've got my Cerritos. I've got a Cerritos finally.
Nice.
And I am getting my Enterprise E soon. They sent me a Prometheus by mistake. Didn't have any Enterprise E's left. But luckily, our very own James Amy would like a Prometheus and has a spare Enterprise E, so we're swapping. So thanks, Master Replicas. We're sorting out ourselves.
I do also want to mention
yeah.
the Annie Wershing, who passed away.
Of course, yeah.
And she got USS Wershing in season 3 to honor her, and her contribution to.
She
season
was
2 of
such
Picard.
an incredible actress. She's been in so many things
And
that
also
I really
she was
enjoyed.
in Enterprise.
Yeah.
So,
She's one of the
yeah.
augments, right? Was she one of the
No,
augments?
she's one of the people who had a holographic family because they were on the crashed on planet, and it had
gotcha.
Rene Auberginois as well in that episode.
Gotcha. She was in 24. She was in Timeless. She was such an incredible actress. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so it's just really nice to have Trek honor these people who have made it what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Right. What else is happening in chat? So Slamus was saying, he still remembers the stuff I told him about Chakotay or Robert Beltran. Yeah. So I was talking with Slamus about, kind of the future of Chakotay's character. I personally don't think he's going to live past Prodigy season 2. The actor has been a bit problematic.
I mean, there's also the fact that he's the character. If we're just talking about the character,
representation of that character is not great.
Well, yeah, there's the representation of him and how he was written and the consultants that they had to write his character. But even if we look in Prodigy, he's in an alternate timeline in the future.
Yeah.
So in any case, he would be hard to get back.
Yeah.
We'll see what Prodigy season 2 does.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, basically, I won't really go too much into details, but there are issues with his politics. Obviously, his character in Voyager was written to be of Native American descent, of which Robert Beltran is not. And
the consultant that they got of Native American culture and history completely made up everything. So that's why a lot of the Native American stuff of Chakotay is
Akuchimoya. Akuchimoya. And of course, obviously, they also kind of insinuated that Native American tribes were descended from aliens, which was, or influenced by aliens, which is also kind of problematic in a way. So,
Yeah.
the character doesn't really. There are a lot of people who still have problems with this character in this day and age, and I appreciate that. So, I feel like they've never addressed the issue. They've never really stated anything about it. I just feel like it may be easier for them to kind of get rid of the character and focus more on Janeway, which is a shame because I really loved how Chakotay and Janeway had that bond. Maybe they can do something to fix it. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the Prodigy writers do.
Yeah,
but I don't think they'll do any specific focus because it's it's
they
not
won't want to draw
focused
attention
on
to it. Yeah,
Chakotay.
no,
It's focused on the Prodigy crew, and as it should be.
yeah,
So we'll see how that goes.
we'll see. John says maybe it was the Cerritos' fault. What happened to the Enterprise E? Could you imagine? I would love for the Cerritos to meet the Enterprise E. I would love that so much.
Yeah, and I think if Lower Decks does that and they get Dawn back as Worf to voice Worf, for just an episode where it's like, oh, the Cerritos is helping out the Enterprise E. Not that the Enterprise E is the reason why, not that the Cerritos is the reason why the Enterprise E is destroyed, but just having an episode where they have to support the Enterprise E would be really cool. And to see Worf as a captain and just to tie
Love
that all together
so much. Could
would
you
be
imagine
nice.
if it was just destroyed because of some really silly accident? Not the Cerritos' fault, but they were there. Like that would be so Lower Decks, and it would also just kind of work with how
It
Reno
would
Worf
work
goes.
with
It was
how
not
it
my fault.
was introduced in
Yeah, in
Picard, yeah.
Picard. Yeah, I agree. I love it. Brad says such a Lower Decks move to have such a big focus on a background ship. I agree. I think all of the Star Trek series over the past 5 years or so have done amazing work with background ships. Particularly Discovery with the Voyager. What was it, J?
Yeah.
Something like that. With the USS Nog. Picard did an incredible job bringing in some Star Trek Online ships for the first time. And of course, you've had, Lower Decks. You've had the Archimedes.
The Obina class, the Parliament class. You have a lot of different variants.
Yeah.
There was the Nova class there. A lot of Andorian ships and Vulcan ships and New Vulcan ships. It's just so nice, and especially
Yeah.
with Lower Decks, you can do it much easier. In a lot of scenes, you don't need 3D models; you can just
Yeah.
draw it in.
Strange New
I know it's
Worlds
not
did
that
as
easy, but
well. They brought back the original Orion ships. They looked so cool.
yes, yes, and I like that we've gotten a lot of Orion ships in Lower Decks, and
Yeah.
especially the Orion Focus. We have been told that we will see more Orion in season 5. Now we know why we were told that, because
That does
Tendy's
make
off to go
sense.
there.
Yeah.
But just
And it also
having
makes sense as to why they said we'll see a lot more to Lynn in season 5 because obviously Tendy's not going to be there. So
yeah, but having not only Orion-style ships from Enterprise, which we've seen 2 of them, but then variants of those, and then the animated series ships, and now this new massive warship, which is massive. It's just beautiful and adds to the diversity of these species and these cultures by just
yeah,
being like, oh yeah, they don't all have the same style of ship. They're different.
yeah,
Like even the Hidekis, the Cardassian ships here,
yeah.
look slightly different. And it's just really nice.
I think they've had a repaint because of the Alpha Fleet stuff.
Yeah. The Nova Fleet stuff.
525. Oh yeah, sorry, Nova Fleet. 525 says, "I love the many call outs the show gives. I love it. Yeah, to the old episodes, characters, even its own past history. I love." Michael says, "So cool to learn about the ships. They're some of my favorite parts of Trek." Well, it's funny you should say that because check out our YouTube channel, Trek Central, where we do lots of in-depth dives into ships. I think there's
we just did a
one
Nova class.
Yeah.
Yesterday or maybe Friday. I can't remember when it went out. I think it was yesterday. So that's very nice, and we have some more ship stuff coming. But yeah, I mean, if there's any specific ship that you want us to cover in detail, do let us know, because
Yeah.
it'd be nice to cover this ship. Ooh.
Yes,
Yeah.
it'd be so cool. Who else in chat has been Don says reminds me of Vija from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Well, I don't know what that's in reference to. Well, yeah, Vija kind of. Well, no, that's the whale probe actually, not Vija, but
Well, I
so
guess
go on.
Vija's look, in terms of giant ship, just with the Orion ship, I guess, might
Gotcha.
be what
Yeah,
they were talking about. So, yeah,
and obviously the whale probes is another
it's
similarly
a
massive.
giant ship.
They didn't really have a lot of imagination back then, but
Just a big cylinder.
just a
But it
big
was cool.
cylinder.
It's just a big
Yeah,
cylinder. And it has
it's a solar system wide, this cloud around VG. Anyway,
Oh, yeah,
Summerster
VG.
says, glad you got your models. Very glad Master Replicas didn't stuff up the signed DS9 model. Me too. Thank you. Brad says, a member of STO spoke about how the reconstructions were an important part of getting the ship's like steam runner into the game. Absolutely. Like, all these artists do an amazing job of like working together, communicating with each other, asking each other for help. It's just, it's such a, and it's all done through passion for the work, passion for the ships. It's a wonderful thing to see. These people don't have to do it, but they do, and it's just what makes this universe so incredibly detailed. So
yeah, I think me and some friends were looking for renders of particular ships that Eagle must have done to just see them out of the magazine, and I believe we found Pisari's website where he chronicled all the renders he had done.
oh,
And
I
it was just
love
like a gold
that.
mine. It's just like a historical archive of, oh my god, all these Trek ships and all these fantastic looks at them. So yeah, it's just beautiful to see these people's passions and go towards archiving and chronicling Trek history in such a detailed way.
Yeah,
Even if it is just cool ship models. Yeah,
because you've
but
also
it's a
got
part
the
of Trek
Roddenberry
history.
archives doing an
A
amazing
lot of
job
stuff.
of that as well.
Yeah, especially their recent thing looking at all the Enterprises. And we got some cool new looks at the Enterprise J, which made me actually start to like the Enterprise J.
I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Yeah, but I mean, neither was I. And then I was like, oh, these renders. Oh my god.
I
That
think
looks
it's when
actually
you
nice.
realize that there's like it's a see-through hull and you've got like arboretums and stuff like that's pretty crazy. Absolutely mad. You've got like a forest on the ship and stuff. I did miss a question in chat about if there's any TNG or DS9 era ships we'd love to see in the show next.
Have we seen a Giga class in
I don't think we have. No,
uh
that was
Lower Decks?
the most kit bashed of all the ships.
Okay, if we're talking about Kit Bash, then what about the Curry class ship?
I'm just
Is
when
horrifying.
I started to feel like Eagle Moss was really just sending me the bottom of the barrel. What would I love to see? I would love to see. I don't know because we've seen quite a lot, haven't we?
Yeah. In Lower Deck so far.
Yeah. I mean, I will always be happy to see a Defiant. I am the biggest Deep Space Nine fan, and I would love to see more Defiant. But to be honest,
to see the Valiant, which was the Defiant concept art, where it's more like flared out. Stuff like that, just to show, like, as
you can get that on Star Trek Online as well.
Yeah, but as we've got a small steam runner, it would be nice to see some like more diverse. Okay, this is a variant of the Defiant class, and that'd be nice. Like as you said, Star Trek Online does that, but to see that actually in the Star Trek universe would be so nice.
Alex in chat says phaser or lightsaber. What do you prefer? I mean, I love a good Voyager era phaser rifle myself.
I mean, I would say probably phaser because you'd be less likely to harm yourself.
Oh yeah, harming yourself.
Aren't the most safe thing. You just okay. I'm gonna spin it. Oh,
definitely not on the list of things I could be trusted.
Whereas phaser, you'd have to point it at yourself and shoot it. So yeah.
525 wants more Enterprise references. I would always happily take more Enterprise references. I tell you what, my biggest one for a season 5 of Lower Decks is a mirror universe crossover.
Yeah, because we've only got that in the holodeck.
Yeah, I really want a Mirror Universe crossover. I really, really want it. Hi, Valamis, by the way. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you.
Welcome. Yes.
Um, what's
Yeah.
your biggest desire from season 5?
Season 5. Probably just, like I said, just connectivity to the other shows in cool ways. So, we did get Admiral Picard reference, but I would just like, oh yeah, Lucano is being used for Romulan refugees.
Yeah.
Or something cool like that.
The sideways Romulan ship? Oh, do you mean the Dederidex? The Dederidex class.
Or if they mean the other sideways, so the vertical one. They could mean that.
The Tal Shiar one, maybe. Or
Yes.
Zindi. We haven't seen any Zindi in a long time now.
Well, we saw Zindi in Star Trek Prodigy.
Ah.
So that was nice. But
yeah, they've been keeping a very low profile.
Yeah, they were just guards for a planet.
Yeah. Right. That brings to an end our discussion. Oh my God, what a finale! Yeah. So yeah, I guess the next Trek will be coming out in early 2024. Discovery season 5
and Prodigy season 2.
Yeah,
whenever
dates to be confirmed, but we'll see.
To be confirmed on either of them.
Yeah, you know that we'll tweet about it the second we hear about it. So make sure that you're following our socials. The Trek Central on Twitter and trekcentral.net on the web, and don't forget Trek Central on YouTube as well. Dom, where can people find you on the internet land?
People can find me on Twitter, I guess X, formerly known as Twitter, at Dom D Paris, where I just talk about Star Trek and other hyperfixations at the time. And then just, on Trek Central YouTube, where I write a bunch of scripts, and I'm known as the Lore Master for some reason.
Literally is the Lore Master.
But yes, it's been fun. Thank you
so much for joining. So you can find me as Get Mic'd on Twitter and Blue Sky, and Get Mic'd OW on Twitter. I will not be calling it X because I think it's a stupid name.
I mean, same, but I have to.
True.
Like legal reasons, maybe.
True, yeah. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us, chat. Thank you so much for your questions and for being here. I will see you next Sunday. Have a great rest of your weekend. Live long and prosper.